I'm joined today by Matthew Ratcliffe, Chief Operations Officer for CMAC. Matthew, thank you very much for joining me today, and you're here to represent CMAC, who have been very kindly sponsoring the iCabbi Exchange Roadshow, as well as our Love Local Taxis and Private Hire campaign. I want to talk about both those things. So let's start with the exchange, which is all about networking. Now, there probably isn't a better person to speak about networking than yourself, because you have a very long tenure in the industry in supply networking, and you've now joined CMAC. So you've obviously been invested with the concept of sharing work across companies for a long time, collaboration. But why does it matter more now than ever before?
So first and foremost, thank you for inviting me on, and it's been it's a pleasure to talk at such an important event within the industry. Sharing itself is important. In this world where passengers and customers are looking for safe and convenient services, across the vast regions and countries, it's incredibly important that the industry comes together and looks to how we combine, services, specifically when customers are looking at their local providers and understanding and having trust in those local providers. My background in aggregation and within supply, feeds quite well into what Love Local is looking to do, and obviously what iCabbi are doing. We have a number of trusted partners, and at CMAC we think it's important that we look at how we bring the industry and that UK and international community together.
I think CMAC are a tremendous advocate for the entire industry, and certainly have been championing that sense of people coming together and working together. But what, in your opinion, has changed? Has there been a mindset shift with companies willing to work together previously in a co-opetition model, for example, like in the iCabbi exchange? Are passengers, do they have higher expectations now of the taxi industry? Is the landscape the same as when you first started working in network, or do you feel like there's been a shift now more recently?
Well, I think everybody knows, the industry has gone through a number of significant changes. Tech is an enabler. Obviously, iCabbi and other tech providers have come along in that time and have moved the technological discussion and innovation further along. Where we see the industry going is that in order to have a healthy market and to ensure that there is fair competition across local, but also within rural locations, also urban and city locations, it's important to have a number of options. And there's never been a more important time whereby local providers can build that trust, trust with drivers, trust with communities, but also, from a passenger perspective and even from a B2B client perspective, it's having access to that supply on a grander and greater scale, but also having that connection with a local provider, or a local operator that a passenger or client will have trust in.
Do you feel that taxi companies have a unique selling point to offer in terms of being able to present themselves as being local?
100%. I think we see it in a world where it's become more global and corporate, that independents do have a place to play within any market, specifically and especially within the taxi and private hire market. In the UK and further afield, we are seeing that customers and passengers have an emotional and will have an emotional connection with the local providers and are willing to put money and support local operators and local entities. And I see that always having a significant place within any healthy marketplace. And it's no different for the UK or further afield.
What other USPs do taxi fleets bring to passenger transit?
So safety and compliance is important. I think it's also important to understand that when we talk about passengers and customers, there is a wide spectrum of demographics, and within that, we live in a world now where there are multimodal ways in which people can book, and there are more traditional methods that are required within a healthy community, such as phone. I know there's lots of effort in terms of how apps work.
Absolutely, not everybody wants to book in an app. I think I'm one of them, actually. I use the phone quite a lot still, and it's definitely still a big segment of the taxi audience for sure.
Yeah, it's an important part to realise that that we still in communities there are a broad range of people that require and need taxis as part of their day-to-day living and working week. And within that, companies and operators need to fully understand and fully appreciate that there are different demographics, the different ways in which people use operators are looking for different types of solutions. Safety and compliance is a very, very important one. And within the UK, and obviously, with Love Local, having trust within your operator, knowing your operator, understanding that, licensed providers have the necessary balances and checks in place to provide the services that customers are looking for. It's incredibly important that the message and enhancements that have been happened to date are maintained and improved.
Absolutely. And I mean, as part of this Love Local campaign that we have launched, we really feel that the local branding of a company is part of its superpowers, because this is what the community invests in, and it is the local fleet that sponsors the local football team. They take the old folks out at Christmas time, and I think that's all really, really important. And they're employing people locally too, not just the drivers, but also the people in the office. So we're asking our fleets to retain that local quality as part of their service offering and their brand, but to also think about how being local doesn't have to mean being purely operational just within their city or town, that they can also offer their passengers coverage now nationally through the iCabbi exchange and internationally also. So it's about this local global fusion, I guess, for local fleets. And I think the exchange is giving them the opportunity to participate in that type of network. Now, for you guys, you are looking for national coverage, international coverage for your clients, and you are using the taxi industry as supply. So for you, what does the taxi industry offer your clients that maybe isn't available through other forms of transport? And I think particularly because you guys do a lot of disruption travel and roadside assist, is it the fact that the taxi industry is so pervasive across the country, and it's the nooks and crannies that you just won't get with any other mode of transport?
So yeah, I mean, at CMAC, what we specialise in and what we look to do is create whole of market aggregation, and then within that we have specific clients that come to us with specific requests. We look to try and provide solutions based off client requests, which then within the taxi and PHV market, that in itself is how do we create those solutions on such a grand scale and broad and breadth coverage within both national and international. We do operate in throughout Europe. We have 5 operational centres throughout Europe, in Portugal, Greece, Spain, and we have 2 operational centres here in the UK. What we look to do is provide that aggregation of transportation solutions, and the taxi and private hire market plays an important part in that. So from us, a healthy and prosperous market requires SME operators or smaller operators, right up to larger operators, to have a strong presence in their local community, but also have a healthy and compliant understanding of safety and booking tools that really enhance what they're doing. Stronger local providers provide a really strong value proposition for us as an aggregator of transportation solutions.
And I think the benefits for the fleets are really apparent. So a huge proportion of iCabbi fleets are already signed up at CMAC through the aggregator model. Yeah. And I travel around the UK quite a lot meeting customers, and I always use their cars when I'm doing that. So I'll always ask the drivers, what kind of work are you getting in? What do you like? And they always say, oh, I love the CMAC jobs. I love the CMAC work, because it is kind of slightly out of the BAU work that they're getting every single day, and it can often be quite long trips too. But for the fleet owner, by working with you guys, it really gives them just extra demand into their company. And being remote or being being small isn't a disadvantage at all. In fact, it's probably an advantage if you're a small operator somewhere quite far flung, because they're going to be able to give you that coverage, and they're going to get those bookings that are quite lucrative.
Again, going back to the point, a significant point in that we look to try and aggregate services on a large scale from where there's central procurement for businesses, and we think we can play an important part in that within the ecosystem and bring all fleets together. And that does include SME or the smallest fleet sizes, but give people the opportunity to enhance. We're all about standards and quality and ensuring there's compliance and safety for our clients and for the passengers that they are looking to move around. We do have a saying: "Our people move your people," and I do think it's very aligned to how some of the work that yourselves are doing at iCabbi, but also with the Love Local campaign. It's really about how do we, as an industry, unite? How do we provide us, the solutions that our customers and clients want? And it's really exciting as to what's next in this industry.
What is the future for collaboration in the industry and for networks going forward?
Well, so look, I think tech's an enabler, and it has and it will continue to be so. We obviously are going to see some enhancements in tech, and operators of all size will need to understand what that means for their business model. There will be greater collaboration. There'll be more mergers and acquisitions. We have a strong belief at CMAC that tech is an enabler, and we invest in our people to deliver the services that we believe customers and clients want. And really, I think the next phase for the industry is how can the industry begin to look at how we can work in a united fashion, in a greater fashion. Fast fail, test stuff, pilot stuff. I think there's lots of good ideas out there. From meeting a lot of the operators here today and people within the industry, there's some very talented people in the industry. The industry continues to innovate and evolve. AI will play a role in that. Still to be determined as to the impact and how that will transition, or how will that be implemented into people's business models. But I think tech will play a part, but I do also think how people use tech and how people support a wider network within the communities they work within will be incredibly important as to the next phase of our industry, and obviously how that then goes further afield into the international community as well.
Well, as a very happy partner of CMAC, we look forward to being on that journey with you guys and seeing where we can bring the industry together. Thank you again for sponsoring the Exchange Roadshow, as well as Love Local Taxi and Private Hire.
Thank you.